I want to go to some slides at this point. So comments are used in a program to document a program and to enhance its readability. I told you why it is important to have your program be readable, because you are going to be maintaining the code and you need to be able to look at it and understand what's going doing. So with comments, it can help quite a lot. In this concept of readability, comments are there to remind you or someone else reading your code what the program is doing or what a particular line of code is doing. So comments are there for your benefit. Comments are ignored by the compiler. So it does not matter if you follow the syntax of comments, the compiler is not going to throw any error. Whatever is inside the comment, so again, they are very useful and you want to use them in your programs. And they are basic concept of all programming language. And so there's nothing we really here to see. Again, you may as a programmer write some code, come back to it in 6 months, and you may not remember why you wrote the code the way you did. You may not understand the functionality. You may not understand the logic. By providing a comment in the code, it can save a significant amount of time that you waste in relearning things, especially relearning that code. Or imagine that you wrote some code and it is a large program that's many programmers working on it. If there's comments and they are describing what the code is doing, then that other person is going to be able to understand that code much quicker. It's going to be more readable. So again, comments help the readability. Either they help the readability of the programmer who wrote the code, or they help the readability of somebody else that's looking at code. You can easily look at that source code and then quickly understand what the code is doing. And so you want to provide comments in your code. The syntax for providing comments in your code is there's two ways you can provide comments in your code. And again, this is very, very similar to Java, very similar to many languages. But in C, you can either have multi-line comments or single comments. If you use two characters, the forward slash followed by the asterisk, this will signify a multi-line comments. A comment that spans many lines and the forward slash star marks the beginning of that comment. And when you have these multi-line comments, because they have a starting comment, you have to have something that says it's ending. So to end the comment, you put the character strict forward slash at the end without any spaces in between. And so then anything in between the forward slash star and the ending star forward slash is considered a comment. Everything in blue, that, and that way you can span multiple lines. The other way that you can add a comment to your C program is you can use single line comment. Single line comments are just two forward slash. Anything after the two forward slashes on that line is ignored by the compiler and it's a new line of code. So it really depends on the comment that you are providing, whether or not you want to use multi-line comments or single line comments. And I'm going to show you how you can add those to your code in a second. Now, as far as styling goes, whether you use multi-line comments or single line comments, you are probably going to use both depending on what you are trying to do or how many lines you have to describe or how big your comment is. In this example, we are using a multi-line comments here, and this would typically go at the top of the file. It's describing. You can also provide comments that stand out. If something really, really important in your code is happening by providing many asterisks, and so the second example here where it says this is a very important comment really stand out because of all those asterisks. So it's kind of a different style than the heading comment at the top in the first example. Now the last example here, which is just a single line comment, it's at the end of a line of code and it basically just tells you what a single line is doing. So you see these different styling of multi-line versus single line comments. Here's a common example that you will see in a program. This is a program that contains C code. You probably don't know really what the heck this is doing, but you could look at the comment and sort of identify what's going on. So there's a comment at the top that says this program adds two integer values and displays the result. It's telling you the purpose of the program, what's doing. Then you see some single line comments. And how do you know they are single line comments? Because they have two forward slashes. So you see a single line comment that says declaring variables. You see another one that says assign values and calculate their sum. And then you see one that says display the result. Each single line comment is describing each single groups of code, telling you what they are doing. And so you can quickly look at this code and understand what the code doing by looking at the comment. It makes the program more readable. Readability is an advantage because it makes the code easier to maintain. So it's important to use comment, and this is a quick example of adding comments to some code. Now, how often should we utilize comment? There is the concept of having too many comments. You don't want to have your code that has a comment for every single line. That actually decreases the readability of the code because it's just overflowing. It's actually making it harder to read because it's just overwhelming. So you don't want to put a comment for every single line of code. You have to choose your comment wisely and use them intelligently. This will come with practice. When to add comments, when not to add comments, where to put the comments. Typically, I will have comments at the top of my source file with a standard information like the author, the purpose, the description, the date created of comments, then interspersed throughout my code, describing some lines of code that where the logic is a little more complicated. I would not always include comment for just clearing variables because it's kind of obvious. I may not include comment for certain function descriptions because the description itself might be a more meaningful. It all depends and it comes with practice. But whenever you do add comments, it's traditionally a good idea. One, because if you do it, then you will have the program commented and you would not forget to do it. It's also easier to document the program. Why you actually understand what it's doing will while you are writing the code is still fresh in your mind. You don't have to come back a month later and say, what did I mean here? And now I have to add a comment. So add the comment while you are writing the code, and the comments can also help you. You are trying to find and fix your error during the debugging phase. If there are logic errors, you can look at the comment and you can kind of isolate, well, this is the error that happened. This comment kind of lines up that functionality. I bet you the error in this group of code. So it helps you isolate errors in debugging. A comment can help you read through the program, but it can also point the way to the source of a logic mistake. So comments are important. Now, the other argument when providing comments is again, there's this big debate with programmers. How many comments do you provide? And there is a nice look at here called Clean Code, which talks about writing quality code. Believe it or not, there can be good code or bad code, and that's referred to as the quality of the code. You want to write a highly quality code, we will talk about this throughout the course. But a lot of students that learn new language think as long as the output matches what I need, it does not matter how I write the code. That's not true. Because again, remember that maintenance phase. Remember that the product or the program that you release is going to be out in the field maybe for a number of years. And so if you want to find existing bugs or add new features, it's important that the code is very high quality, easier to maintain, very loosely coupled, highly cohesive. And we'll talk about these concepts as we go through. We are going to be writing high quality code throughout the class. One of the ways to write high quality code is providing comments, but also providing self-documented comments. What this means is really using meaningful names. This is what clean code look talk about that. When you create a variable, use a meaningful name. So when you look at the variable, you know exactly what it's being used for. Then you don't need to provide a comment. If you have a function that adds two numbers, name the function add two numbers. Then do you need a comment to say what is that function doing, because the name is telling you what it's doing. So meaningful name is a good way to provide self-documenting comment. Let's go back to our example from with our challenge, and I want to show you exactly you can add comments, and wherever you add them and you will notice that the compiler is going to ignore these comments. So in our first example here, which is a basic program, I will typically add multi-line comments at the top of the file before any lines of code. And remember that we can add those multi-line comments by just providing a slash asterisk to start the comment, and then anything in between the comment will be the comment. Anything in between the star and the asterisk, and you will notice when I do that slash star that everything is gray, because that's telling me that I don't have any ending comment right now. So you have to add that star forward slash to end the comment, and you will see that the colors now change. This is why I like to use an IDE, because it tells you a lot with this color coordinated formatting. So anything between the slash star is the starting of a multi-line comment. Anything before the star forward is the description or the end of the multi-line comment. And I will usually put at the top of the file something like author, and I will put my name, and then I will put maybe a purpose. This is usually good practice, and I will put something like this program print out my name to the screen, and then I will usually provide a date of when it was created, whatever the date is, and that's an example of multi-line comment top, and then I will provide comments. Throughout the code, usually single line comments or multi-line comments. It just depends how much comments there are. So maybe we are not familiar with this code, and I could say, two forward slashes is a single line comments. I can say this code is displaying my name, and again, when I provide these forward slashes or these multi-line comments, the compiler ignores them. Basically, you can put anything you want inside there, and it doesn't matter. There's no syntax that you have to follow. There's nothing. It is ignoring everything that is colored gray here, that is considered a comment. So comments are basic fundamental thing of every program. I wanted to describe them early on because it will be utilizing them, and you should be adding them as you are writing your code. Also with comment within the IDE, there are times when you are compiling your code and it's all falling, and so there are times when you may want to comment everything or comment blocks of code to try to debug your program, try to isolate your error. You can highlight multi-lines of code, and then you go up to that edit menu, and you can say comment or uncomment. If you say comment, it's going to comment all that code that you highlighted, and then you can recompile, and maybe you don't have a compiler error anywhere. It's a way of isolating error either at runtime or compile time. So the IDE has some nice tools that allow you to comment multiple lines automatically by highlighting and toggling.